And it was a really beautiful experience going to the clinic and having somebody be the escort who put her arm around me, walked me into the clinic, past people who were shouting at me. And I definitely would not be the same person that I am right now if I hadn't been allowed to have the access to that as an option. So for me, this is definitely very personally scary, imagining other people being in that position and not having this access. So that's really what's driving me to think about next steps and think about how we can work outside of this system to get people the care that they need. So I just want to open it up.
Yeah, can we actually create a circle? I think
that would be
awesome. It would be great if we can, so that first row can stay where you are, and maybe our friends on the ends can sort of come around so that we can really make it a space where we're all feeling we can share and hear. So I think that's, like Nika said, that's a great place to start. So just kind of sharing either any feelings that you're having right now, or sharing, where you're coming from to this space. And obviously, like Nika said, all of it is valid, right? We're here in community for the same reason, but I think different things sort of bring us here. So it's really nice to kind of just have some space to share. Anyone want to?
My name is Melody. I use she, her pronouns. And the news had me feeling very complacent as a law student and as someone who wants to be in the legal profession, because it was very much this institution that we're taught in school is like an arbiter of just decisions, making this decision that would fundamentally change the lives of just not only my life, but the life of people around me for the worse. And it's this definite feeling of even wanting to participate in the system, even if it's being an actor that represents the people within it, I am complacent in the decisions that it makes. So I had a lot of having this decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I know for me, it was one of those things that's kind of always been in the back of our minds. We know living in this country, I mean, honestly, really living in this world, as a woman or as a person with a uterus, just in general, we sort of always know that we can never feel totally safe, or we can let our guard down, or we have full autonomy over our bodies and the decisions that we make. And so it's kind of just always there, but this was just honestly was such a gut punch. So it's hard to kind of to know how I'm feeling, because it's something that yeah, of course, obviously this is going to happen. But that doesn't change the reality that how scary it is personally, but also for all of the people that we know. This is truly going to affect immediately as soon as this law, as soon as that signature is done. It's just the lives are changed, and so that is really heavy. But I will say the thing that's been really amazing is that solidarity, I think, in all of our spaces, and that's why mutual aid, I think, is so powerful, because it's that same thing of feeling really helpless and trying not to feel hopeless, and then looking around you and seeing all of these people who are feeling exactly the same, and who also are willing to put themselves on the line for me personally, right? Because we're doing this, we're really doing it for all of us, but also again for everybody. And so it's those moments of hope are really the things that I hold on to.
Yeah, definitely. I know Rishi and I were talking the other day, and we were sort of trying to figure out why this is like, it feels like we've been here before. And we were realizing that this is a very similar feeling to the very beginning of the pandemic, because the pandemic was affecting everybody all at the same time. And this is going to affect, I mean, directly affect 26 states, which is, half the country, but then therefore will also affect the other half of the country as well. So there is this like overarching feeling of panic, but also an overarching coming together. So just like in the beginning of the pandemic, like lots of mutual aid organizations were formed, right? And everybody came together in order to try to solve the problem that was facing all of us. And so it's that same sort of energy of people wanting to come together and help, because we are really all experiencing the same thing.
I remember when I first heard about it and saw that it was actually a thing. I was really, really, really stressed and upset about it. But I feel like at this point I've been desensitized because of I mean, all the stuff that led up to this with taking away autonomy from trans individuals and trans kids. There's all this precedent for this leading up to it. And especially with the baby formula shortages at the same time, it's kind of, I'm desensitized, but I'm also infuriated by it.
Yeah, totally.
Julia, by the way, sorry.
Totally.
she
Yeah, I find myself just randomly having panic attacks or crying, and my partner's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, it's still the abortion thing. It's still that, it's not going away. It's still happening. So yeah, I feel that from numbness into total panic. Cool. Well, I think the next step that
Actually, before
oh
we
yeah.
can we take some time just to do a quick
Oh yeah, intros,
introduction?
totally. Yeah.
So if you share your name, pronouns, and if you'd like to share them, and then I guess just either you share how you're feeling today, where you are just in general. You can share what brought you to the conference today, or you can share what brought you to this specific workshop. So just a little something about yourself to start by getting to know each other.
Yeah, I'm she, her pronouns. I'm one of the organizers, and I came to this to learn how to be an ally. And Melody, I use she, her pronouns, and I think because I practice mutual aid in Newark, I have been doing so since the uprising since 2020, and I just want to learn how to do that better.
My name is Winfrey. I go by he, they pronouns. This is my first mutual aid sort of event. I honestly don't really know what to expect, but I really like the idea of being a part of community and supporting the others around me. So I'm really interested in learning what I can from this experience.
Julia, she, they. I learned about this conference from friends that I met at school, and I've donated to mutual aid groups in the past, but I've never really participated, and I've always wanted to. So I'm also very excited for this.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Emily. I she, her pronouns. I came to this session because I've just been feeling really horrified and anxious. I'm really interested in channeling that to something productive and learning more about.
Hi everyone, my name is Rishi. He, him pronouns. I'm from Princeton Mutual Aid and also some countries with TSA. Came to the event today mostly because I want to connect with other like-minded organizers across the state of New Jersey, and hopefully in the face of life-threatening conditions and happenings that have been going on in New Jersey and around the state for the last 2 years, especially the pending abortion ban. We need to be able to form these networks and rely on them for to mobilize in the weeks and months to come.
Zach, my pronouns are he, him, and I came here with Jersey Shore Food Not Bombs. I also work with the Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project, and I came specifically to this group because I think it's a very topical thing right now, the mutual aid organizers that we need to be concerned about for the reasons everyone already mentioned, that this is about to pop off and it's going to affect a lot of people in horrible ways. So I could think of no more timely thing to do than to be in this group right now.
My name is Mike. I also came to Jersey Shore Food Not Bombs. I'm also involved with the Asbury Park Transformative Justice Project. I use he, him pronouns. I came today to, as others have mentioned, I get to know some other folks who are doing this type of work in our communities and figure out how we can integrate. And I came to this specific breakout in hopes that I can learn how to be a better support system and a better ally for folks in a time like this and learn from you all. So thank you for having me and sharing your experiences.
Hi everybody, Janine, she, her. I learned about the confidence action with humility. But I came because I was doing organizing in the city and I wanted to connect with organizers, specifically in this breakout session because many people that I love very dearly have had abortions and they have every right to have those. So.
My name is Nick. I use he, him pronouns. I'm from North New Jersey. I do various organizing mutual aid efforts in North as well as throughout Jersey. I used to do some work in California with some immigrant rights organizations, and I still do some work now with international social movements, where we essentially help get funding and money to Latin America, various organizations in order to help them with elections and all kinds of social movements. A big thing that we, and it's interesting to think about the abortion fund defense or defending abortion here in the States, because when looking at Latin America, that was a big fight just recently. And it was a big fight in places where many people see as more conservative, more Christian, more Catholic. And here in the United States, people tend to think that we're more progressive, open. And I think that a lot of that is slowly being, at least it should be slowly being dispelled. Those ideas need to no longer be in our mind that we're this progressive society that actually cares for rights. Because really that doesn't exist. And we see that when you compare it to the rest of the world.
So lovely to meet everyone.
Oh, hi.
Didn't see it on there.
To reach the chat if I need to. My name is Aisha. My pronouns are she, her. I organize with Central Jersey DSA and some other organizations. And I really wanted to have this discussion because I know a lot of people here organize around a lot of things. And I think it's just reminding me of 4 or 5 years ago when we knew that the administration was coming for immigrants and people formed in local communities, rapid response networks. Obviously mobilizations are really, really important just to show our numbers and to show that people care about an issue, but we have to do way more than that. So I'm looking forward to organizing with all of you.
Cool. Do you have anyone on the computer? Oh yeah. No. Okay. Cool. All right, so what I wanted to do next was just go over the current state of things in New Jersey. I'm sure that you all know a lot of these things already, but just so we're all on the same page, it's definitely something that we need to really stay on top of. So currently abortion is obviously still legal in New Jersey, and it will remain legal because it was enshrined into state law in January. However, during that bill process, there were 3 clauses of the bill that were struck down due to pushback by some of the more conservative Democrats, as well as the Republicans, obviously. And so they were not put in, but are being re-proposed now in light of what's going on. So those are a clause that mandates state insurance to pay for all costs of abortion. So this is something that we really need to like push right now to make sure that that does get enshrined into law. They have to be obviously passed in the Senate and the Assembly before they could be signed by Governor Murphy, who is willing and ready to sign them. And there's also a bill that would provide legal protections for both clinicians and patients from out of state who are coming in to receive abortions. So that is like really the key issue here in making New Jersey a sanctuary state, is to get that bill passed. And then there's also a proposed bill that would create a state fund to support underinsured or uninsured patients. So those are the three things that, in terms of like emailing your reps, telling other people to email your reps, yelling at them outside, and you know, that like that's the kind of stuff we need to like really focus on. However, right now Medicaid does cover abortion. And we do have, as far as I know, and again, if anyone has other information that is different than what I'm saying right now, please speak up. But as far as I know from the research I've done, there is one abortion fund in New Jersey, NJAAF. And so they do provide, you know, help for people, but they don't have anything in place right now for like transportation from out of state or anything like that. Another really good thing that's happening in New Jersey is that more people are being trained to perform the procedure. So originally it was only physicians who were allowed to perform the procedure, but now physician assistants, nurses, and midwives are allowed to be trained, and there's a fund that's in place right now that is giving money to train those people. So because there's definitely going to be an influx of people coming from out of state, we really need to have those resources in place. So that is really good. So that is the state of things in New Jersey. But as we know, the state of things in 26 other states are really, really dire. So all the way from, you know, a 6-week ban to a complete ban to bounty hunter laws being put in place so that anyone who assists somebody to get an abortion can be prosecuted for murder. And even there are even states that are passing laws that restrict or completely ban medication abortion, which is something that is really scary because we thought that was going to be able to still be available, but certain states are taking a lot of steps to make that completely illegal. So is there anything else you wanted to add on?
Just that, like, again, we know, you know, once that signature is done, this is going to be, you know, that word effect, domino effect, that there are states also poised to try to get rid of access to birth control and things like that. So again, like when we're talking dire, we are talking dire situation.
Yeah, definitely. And so because of that, we need to, you know, start thinking outside the box. And in Princeton Mutual Aid, what we started to do was we just created what we called an abortion task force. So we have people who are joining from like the surrounding community, Princeton Students for Reproductive Justice, and people from Mutual Morris have already joined as well. And basically, like, the steps that we're taking right now are to do this research about what's going on in New Jersey, try to mobilize to push the state representatives to make these changes that would make abortion safer for people outside of New Jersey, but also create a network between New Jersey mutual aid organizations and other state mutual aid organizations so that we can, if necessary, drive people from out of state, you know, get people money that they need, find people places to stay, mail medication abortion if necessary. So what we've been working on is doing research on
especially the surrounding at-risk states. So Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, but also going over to Texas. And we've been researching abortion funds and abortion access programs that are existing right now. And then also mutual aid networks. So we haven't actually done the reach out process yet, because another thing that I meant to talk about was that we need to be really careful about security. I'm sure some people have seen that period tracking data on your phone is potentially able to be used to prosecute someone who has had an abortion. So, data security needs to be really tight. We don't want to accidentally reach out to a mutual aid network that might be pro-life. And that would be really scary, because this bill that would protect us is not currently in place. So it, could potentially be something illegal, right? So we haven't done our reach outs yet, but that can be something that if you all want to get involved, we can actively come together and do this research, make sure that we vet all of the organizations that we're reaching out to, and then do these reach outs and try to create that network so that if we need to, we can mobilize at any moment and get people the care that they need. So what I'm going to do is pass around this sheet. We do ask that you write your full name just for security purposes, and then your phone number if you want to be added to the chat where we're organizing. So
And it's on WhatsApp.
It's
so
on
you would
WhatsApp.
Need the WhatsApp app.
yeah,
Mika, so we're giving our last names so you guys can double check on us, or?
yeah, definitely. So it's definitely, it feels uncomfortable, but it's what we gotta do to make sure that we keep everyone else safe. So all right, awesome. Is there anything you want to add about what we're doing right now in the task force?
No, I mean, I think we are, we want to build a larger network. So we definitely would love folks from other groups to join us, and that's what this is for. We also, this is where we are now, what we think we have capacity for, but we are definitely looking for, more ideas, more resources, all those things. So we're definitely open to more work once we.
Yeah, so this would be a good time. Yeah, Aisha, what's up?
So because OPSEC is so important here, I know just when I'm organizing, I try to think about and I'm not the person who came up with this, but is layers of security. So if someone wants to do the push state reps, that was sort of loose and easy. Anyone can just hop in, and then another, if it's something that's a little
Research is
more
something that again.
Yeah,
But
totally.
just
That's a
thinking of
good
it that
point.
way.
Yeah, that's a conversation we had at our first meeting last week. And yeah, there was definitely, a conversation where we said, you're whatever you want to put into this, is whatever you feel comfortable. And so if you feel comfortable, just doing the research or just doing state rep, reach out, that's totally fine. You don't have to agree to drive someone from another state to New Jersey to get an abortion, if you want to be in the group. So yeah, appreciate it.
I have two questions. So I'm obviously not involved in things. I'm also in the EMA abortion task force, and one of the things, I don't know if you know Nico or Fatima or Aisha, but so in terms of the state of things in New Jersey, what is the push to have a state fund to cover all costs associated with abortion versus the first thing, which is the state insurance, getting the state insurance to cover all costs. Which is the better thing to push for? Because those seem like overlapping goals.
Well, kind of, or do you want to?
I was just going to say there is the one is just for insurance to cover, right? So we need to recognize that a lot of people who are in need of this medical procedure do not have insurance. So I think whatever would cover a wider net that isn't something that you need. So I'm thinking of like COVID, right? With COVID testing, like that it used to be free for everybody and then everybody had access and nobody, you didn't have to have insurance. Now you can only get it for free if you have insurance. So
Yeah, and I guess people fall through the cracks of Medicaid as well.
Yeah, and also it's only the state fund. It's only the state insurance, and only about 30% of New Jersey residents have state insurance. So all other types of insurance would not fall into that category.
So we should probably prioritize to push the state fund.
I think they would, because the other, so that's ideally, right? But if you think about practically the state fund, how much money are they going to put into that, right? It's not going to be a large amount. And so I feel like that's why you want to hit both at the same time. And that's why, like, ideally, both of those would be included within that law so that you would have partially covered through insurance and then the state fund could go towards everybody else. Yeah.
The second thing I was going to say is that in addition to the abortion funds and mutual aid networks, we're also trying to reach out to reproductive justice organizations in those areas. Some of these are, like Aisha pointed out, like more looser, populated not necessarily by like Stalinists or more liberal types that can take on that feel comfortable taking on the more legislative pathway type actions like the pushing the state reps and research and stuff. So I mean, like we have to build as broad networks as possible, especially with regards to this. In our opinion, which is why, like in our task force, we have people that actually I don't think we have many liberal type people yet, but yeah, I mean, like that's what we're looking to add.
Yeah, in my opinion, we have to hit this from like every single angle possible. And there's room for anyone to participate in any of those options. Yes.
Because of the having to, I mean, which would you say is more of a priority between like the funding and the legal protection for outside clinicians? And
yeah, that's a really tough question. I mean, definitely, I think if we're thinking in terms of laws, I think the state protection is the most important because we can mutual aid money together, but we can't mutual aid people out of jail. So, I mean, you can de-arrest, but like that's going to be a lot harder than like collectively raising money to be able to help people. So that's how I would think of it. I don't know if you.
I think they're both so key. So it is. I don't know. It would be hard for me.
It's hard to like pick one.
But I would say that like if we felt like we're only going to be able to put our energy towards one or the other, I think that would be then a collective decision. So everyone within the group would have equal say in, which do we think is more winnable, which do we think is worth our time and energy, so like, again, like we want to be able to have those kinds of collective conversations and decisions.
Yeah, that's a good point. So speaking of collective conversations, I wanted to give us space to just like brainstorm. So after hearing what we're currently working on, does anybody have any other ideas about like things we should be doing, things we should be researching? Yeah.
I'm really nerdy. So anything like online that I can help with, I can do.
Awesome.
If you guys ever want to move to like your own chat solution where it's like on your own server, I can definitely help with that.
Cool.
And it's encrypted end to end too. So everyone has an app that they can access the communications. It's just like Slack.
That's awesome.
Anything like that, like if you guys need websites or anything, I can help with that as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
I think that's that piece of like levels of security. So, some folks would be working on things that we could talk openly about, but yeah, if we're talking about giving rides to folks and things like that, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that same vein, like Signal is a really great encrypted messaging app that like.
Yeah, I've heard some like stuff about Signal that it's like isn't actually, but I don't know how to explain why, and I don't understand why, but I've just heard some stuff that makes me, it's like something about, do you know why?
So with Signal you have I forget their term, but they're like secret numbers, And if they don't match up, a lot of times the servers don't refresh them on like the phone. So the key for encryption doesn't get refreshed for say like a week. So
Okay,
like that whole week, you have a lapse of like encryption where you're just like, this is being sent over HTTP, not HTTPS.
okay, yeah. So, there you go.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah, so
Is that something in WhatsApp though that doesn't have, right? WhatsApp hasn't?
I just don't trust WhatsApp
Yeah,
because it's
I know.
controlled by
Facebook,
Facebook.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And there's something about like mirroring of your phone screen, like people can like get in before the encryption and like,
Via Pegasus.
yeah, Pegasus, yeah.
Pegasus, I don't know, maybe Via probably knows more, but like the cost associated with getting Pegasus from its proprietary company, like to contract out, is very cost prohibitive, right? So that, I mean, maybe New Jersey State Police or federal agencies would be shelling out the big bucks for use of this program to target abortion advocates. Maybe in like, but I doubt that New Jersey state authorities would be doing this, but maybe in like.
What about like Texas?
Yeah, Texas
like-
or Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be. So yeah, I don't know. You know more?
It is pretty expensive, but iOS, Apple did push out an update. I think it's 5.1 we're on now. There is an update that like fixed the leak where like they could actually compromise your phone.
Okay,
So in the
great.
new iOS, it's like, that's why it's so important to do regular updates because there's constantly like security fixes. But
Gotcha.
the new iOS, it can't happen on.
Wow, cool.
The one figure.
Yeah, I know, I'm like, I always forget that. They're gonna do that right now.
Yeah, like it's a while.
I saw a hand, yeah, okay.
Yeah, obviously, understanding that security and stuff is one of the utmost importance of this. Has there been any thought in terms of like a more, whether it's like literature or any type of outreach that can be made more available to the public, whether it's for fundraising or just kind of, as you said, contacting representatives, whether that's tabling or any literature that folks can take and kind of like disperse at other places? Or?
Yeah, that was gonna be something we might not have time to start, but we can work on, you know, our next meeting will be sometime next week. But we were thinking about doing Action Network, like, I don't know, zaps, you know, where you can like send the link, people can put in who their representatives are, and then we would collectively draft like a letter that then would just be automatically sent out to whoever your rep is and Governor Murphy. So that's like the thing that we had in mind right now, but I think that's a really good idea. So if anyone has if you have any like specific things in mind, then.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's like this, like for example, by us, there's like a book cooperative that's, you know, they do a lot of workshops and events and things like that. So like maybe leaving some sort of information there, like whether it's a pamphlet or, you know, like I come from a era of like tabling shows. So if it's like, you know, punk show tabling or something, like there's places where you're gonna find like a sympathetic, obviously like community driven group of folks, like maybe like aside from like internet outreach, because it's such a contingent of the population that might not use the internet or technology as much
Totally.
as others. Just a
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah,
I think like also we are doing a lot of research. I think that was also another, remember we were thinking about adding stuff, information to our PMA website.
oh yeah,
Putting
yeah,
together-
and making a flyer that then could be posted on social media, but printed out and distributed as well. Yeah.
So we were thinking like, first, again, I think even in New Jersey, a lot of folks are scared and worried, you know, obviously with reason. So like figuring out a way to like, yeah, consolidate the information we have about what's happening in New Jersey right now, and then also what we found in other places that are close by.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine is sort of like our follow-up. So if there is like, we know what our networks are, like over the past 2 years, like we formed those, and then, you know, all the social media and that's been built, like those relationships have been built up, but there's, I'm sure, tons that we're missing. So like, would it be, what do people think who are sort of outside the PMA network about like doing, because they do a ton in person in the Princeton area, but like outside of that area, what would be a good way? Is it like doing a QR code that goes there and then people can get linked in, or what's the best?
So just my limited experience, so we have a church very similar to this in Asbury Park that we do benefit like punk and hardcore shows at, and we invite people to label at them. So something like that would be totally, whether it's a QR code, as you said, kind of pulls up that immediate contact form, or even if it's just things, because like I'm learning so much today just about like where New Jersey stands, where New Jersey could go in the future about these type of things. I just feel like that's helpful information for anyone to know. It's really, motivational and mobilizing that, I'm sure. And as I said, like co-ops, I mean, George Street, I assume, like places like that. I don't know if they're still handing out Slingshot magazine and stuff like that, but like, it's like, I feel like some spots like that, maybe folks might, really benefit from that level of knowledge.
Yeah, I think a QR code is a really good idea. Plus, just like making a website that is just, because then it would be so much easier to like live time, like update, like if the bill's passed, and then we don't have like flyers out with information that is wrong. So yeah, that would be a really good idea. Yeah.
Two things. In the current iteration of the passports, are there people who are like discussing the ramifications of undocumented people trying to take part in whatever's happening?
Yeah, so the legality, like right now in New Jersey at least, is that you don't have to have insurance to go to any Planned Parenthood. So there's no risk of like, not having insurance being a problem. The barrier would then be like the money, and the state fund would not discriminate against people who are insured or not insured. So, but there's still the problem for the state fund of being able to like get money, because it can range from like $400 to like $1,500 depending on how far along you are. So,
But I guess like there's still, I'm just thinking about, again, like the other work that we did with folks who are undocumented. So one thing we would have to like maybe push on or like make sure we get more information on is like when you are trying to get access, whether it's at a Planned Parenthood or anywhere else, like what information is being taken from folks who sign in. So is there like a citizenship box, or is there anything like that? So that, I think that's still a really good question. It's something for us to like, continuously keep in the back of our minds.
And the second thing I was gonna say is there any maybe urge to do more like the ideological based zine or pamphlet? So instead of worrying about, I know with Brick City we would have a zine that basically explained what mutual aid was, and it kind of like stood the test of time because it was more ideological in nature. Not saying that most of the people in our areas need to necessarily be convinced about the ideological like importance of accessing abortion, but more of the ideological reasons why like these three goals need to be like achieved for New Jersey to be like the safest place to get an abortion.
yeah, that's a really, really good idea. Yeah,
Like
totally.
I don't know if it's even just like reproducing that research.
But I love that idea of like just helping. I know like, so I'm also part of Central Jersey DSA. So like we do whatever we're like, I'm on the, abolition working group. And so like we do like socialism and abolition and like how those things tie in. So it may be really interesting to do something along with like mutual aid in abortions or like community, like just kind of like thinking about what are values that really a lot of people believe in, and then kind of like tying it in, because I think that as much as like this is, I think it's like 65% of America agrees that like women should have autonomy over their bodies. It's crazy. I mean, that's actually very low, too low of a number, but I think the piece that's missing is like speaking openly about it and like how to have conversations, and for when you come across those 35% of people, how do you then talk? So I think it's helpful to have like resources that are like, here are some ways that you can have these conversations more along the lines of values.
I feel like New Jerseyans also need to be in some level convinced that like, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are like, oh well, but I live in New Jersey, and that's definitely the state line of like Governor Murphy's like, be chill, like you live here, like you're good.
Yeah.
But they need to be convinced that they need to actively work to care about the other people not from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Not saying that like the people, I don't, that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to like the average kind of like apathetic person who may just see it as like, well, I have access to it. So why do I need to donate to abortion funds? Why do I need to make sure that a clinician from out of the state gets legal protection?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, well, that kind of issue that can stand the test of like time.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, so I had like a different topic if we're done on that, I don't want to interrupt, but also, just as a side note, I have a table to show that Mike was talking about. I'm happy to put QR code out.
Cool.
My number's on that paper,
Okay.
or whatever,
Awesome.
literature QR code, whatever it is. So my question was, what in the research have we turned up, or have you all turned up about our surrounding states? Because I mean, I know I can imagine what Texas and Oklahoma are doing, but I really don't know other than, you know, the tri-state area or even the mid-Atlantic. I don't know how states are planning to go about this. So in terms of the more direct and risky action of like trying to bring people to New Jersey, like what's that looking like in the demand for that our immediate area?
Yeah. Kentucky is the one that we're most worried about. Kentucky is actually one of the 3 most intensely anti-abortion states in the country. Appreciate the Kentucky researcher. Do you want to talk about Kentucky?
Yeah, I mean, I still have to do more research on Kentucky, but there's like, so there's like kind of 2 categories. There's states with post-Roe trigger laws, which are going to go into effect should Roe be overturned, Roe v. Wade. And there's 13 of those, and Kentucky is one of those. And then there's other states where they're set to pass abortion restrictions. So the post-Roe trigger laws would effectively outlaw abortion definitely, you know, after 6 weeks. The second category would be the states with these that are set to pass these heavy abortion restrictions. And the closest one to New Jersey that we are aware of was I believe West Virginia. There's also Ohio. Yeah. So that's why you know, we were thinking just proximity wise, those are the states that are closest of the ones that are at risk.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it might, you know, New Jersey has like a very like a well-trafficked airport, Newark International Airport, that makes it so it might be less cost prohibitive to come via plane than it might be to, especially if people don't have cars, for people to come to New Jersey than for people to come to a more central located state that doesn't have like a large airport like that, you know. Yeah, so or that does like also a lot of domestic flights. So you know, that's why it's important to basically research, you know, all over the country. That's why you know, farther away states. But yeah, I know I've been assigned Kentucky rather by myself.
Yeah.
And I have to do more research on it. We have our next meeting a week after this week. So.
Just to do a quick time check, we are at time.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're starting like everything going on in there, if other groups are at the same position.
It's 12 and 12 to 12:30 is lunch. So if you all want to grab it and come back, if Mika and Fatima are okay with that. And then I just also wanted to ask, can we send the PMA abortion task force link out to the email list of people who registered here? Or can we do something like that, some sort of follow-up?
We do need a layer of security with that, but we could send it to everybody and say to reach out to us.
Reach out to us.
Yeah, with their phone number and name
Yeah.
the same way we did. for
Email
this
would be good too, yeah. Well, I guess you'll get the.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to do like a comrade check thing where it's like, if you know someone and they're good, then that's good. But if we don't know, no one knows them, then we've been like Googling people.
If you look at, by the way, just if you look at the map if you look at the map of states that are at risk and states that are at risk, is basically North Carolina and every other state south is at risk in this at risk category. And basically every state west of Ohio is in this at-risk category, except for Minnesota. And until you get to Utah, except for New Mexico, Colorado. Basically every state in the middle of the country.
So is what you're saying that if we do have to bring people in that are from these places, it'll probably be people from those southern states who the first abortion safe state they will hit will be New Jersey or
Well, North Carolina, I mean, currently Virginia does not have any provisions.
Virginia is safe right now, yeah.
Yeah. So they would hit New Jersey, Virginia first, but West Virginia, for example, like West Virginia is pretty close, quite close to New Jersey. I mean, they would have to go through Maryland, which, has abortion is actually quite strongly legally protected, and Pennsylvania, which also is legally protected, but their legislature is much more in flux. So New Jersey would be another, let's say, haven for them. New Jersey is like one of the 3 or 4 strongest protected states in the whole country for abortions.
So regardless of proximity, people will probably.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
thinking
it's-
because of the flight
Right.
option.
I think the other thing is also the groups that we reach out to, right? So folks may need support to get there. And so if we create like a network where folks know that they can come and have the support of like how to get there, the rides, the like maybe helping with funding. So then it may be something that is worth it for them to go a little further to come to us. But we just have to make sure before we offer that out that we have like capacity, that we start doing, all the work that's needed so that we have that in place. Then.
So have y'all considered, or have y'all started looking at maybe like other groups that are doing similar work but in different states, like near surrounding states? And maybe like, I feel like there would be a lot of work to be done with like even New York City and organizing funds there, like mutual aid groups there doing basically the same work. That way you have more resources and stuff.
That's this piece here.
Yeah.
We're trying to really see what else is going on. Because you're right, like we're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
We're not trying to like make folks come further if we don't need to.
That's actually a good point. Like that's regarding mutual aid networks and stuff in those states that are at risk. We haven't yet thought about connecting with networks of states that are closer, like Maryland, for example.
So I definitely
Yeah,
did think
I
about that.
assume that's what you were.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm like.
No, like talking about like, yeah, I mean, I think that's like reaching out to people in Virginia and like New York, yeah, like where it's, or it's like still legal, but
Like what are supporting their efforts.
Right.
yeah. That's a great idea.
Are there other like sanctuary states around here?
Connecticut, not around here. The other, okay, there's 3 full sanctuary states. It's Connecticut, California, and New Mexico.
I thought it was either Colorado or Maryland.
Oh, it's definitely Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Maryland is really close.
Yeah.
A lot of where I'm getting this information is the Guttmacher Institute website. So that's Guttmacher. And I'll just write that down here. Because they are constantly updating. So they have like a running list of where each state is at legally. So you can see like this bill was proposed in this state. This bill didn't pass the Senate or did pass the Senate. This is like in the law. And so they constantly update it. So you can see like, oh, Maryland's like almost there, but then maybe tomorrow it will have passed. So that's a really good resource. So I think in terms of like next steps, you're all welcome to join the next meeting that we have. I'll add everyone to the group chat and we'll like send out updates and see what the best day and time for everyone to meet is. We can sort of like dole out you know, like states, if you want to start, if you have like a personal connection to a state or something and you want to start doing research on that, you know, that would be awesome. Do you want to like kind of get ideas about where everyone's at in terms of that, or is that like, should we just wait till the next meeting? Because there's just been a lot of information. I don't want to like overwhelm people with like making a decision right now on like what you're gonna research or.
Yeah, I think we can pause because we can.
Yeah.
So once you join the chat, then you will get information about the next meeting, and then we have notes where we're sort of keeping track of all of the research we're doing, so you can kind of just do a quick scan and overview of where we are and where you'd like to plug in.
Cool. So let's just end really quick by going around and saying how we're feeling now, like after all of this information. And I know that personally, I feel very hopeful after like every meeting that happens regarding this. It's like so great to hear other people's amazing ideas. Like I just really love, like my favorite part about mutual aid is that it's like a problem arises, and then if you just get a bunch of different people in a room or in a Zoom meeting together, it's like all of a sudden you become this like giant like genius brain, and you know, you begin, you know, being able to solve that problem. So that makes me feel really good.
I am leaving this session feeling very determined.
I feel renewed.
Yeah, I feel energized.
I'm feeling encouraged about like how we can like take what our state, like the position of our state, and like doing this outreach.
Yeah, I'm feeling, yeah, I would say what Emily said. I'm feeling encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, I could agree to that. I thought I was going to be like depressed talking about the realities of all this, but I feel a lot more uplifted, which is good. It's awesome.
I feel hopeful.
I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I'm a little annoyed because I just feel like, imagine if we had organizations that actually say that they support abortion, and like Parents International was coordinating these things with all their resources instead of being captured by the Democratic Party and investing in a system that has nothing to do with actually defending your rights. Yeah. But always like, this is why I came here, because I wanted to connect with people who are actually doing this work, and I'm really looking forward to some of this. I'm going to do some Georgia work.
I feel informed. I think that's one of the first steps to really engaging, organizing, and feeling powerful and feeling like you can make a difference. I'm very grateful that y'all have, did all this research and really put it forward and made it accessible.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah, have some lunch.
Like
Recording stopped. One month. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Should, we're doing it July 23rd as well.
Let's do it.
That's gonna be,
Thank you so much. I think we are gonna hop off. Is there anything else you need?
Oh, yeah, that's another thing.
No, it's just.